This podcast is supported by patrons. You can find a full list of them in the description of this episode. Hello listeners and viewers of Good Morning BSS World podcast. Today we are going to UK. Somewhere in the middle of this country there is a company who is taking care about our remote work, or rather work at home. And today I am going to talk to a gentleman who is one of the founders of this organization and created fascinating application. So let's go and let's talk to Peter Hubbard. Hi Peter, how are you?
Hi Victor, how are you today?
I'm very well. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Peter Hubbard. I'm the CEO of a company called Cloudbase Partners. Previously, I was managing director of Dell here in the UK and a couple of other multinational US type companies. But I started Cloudbase with two other partners about 2 years ago. And we are very much focused on making sure that employees that are working from home are working in a safe and secure and a regulatory compliant working environment, and that their well-being is being looked after by their employer.
So 2 years ago, it was like in the middle of the pandemics.
It was. So we were all working from home at the time. But of course, what happened was that everybody was just told to grab whatever you can off of your office desk and take it home, and let's see if we can keep the company running. And of course, it's turned out that it was, although it was a forced experiment, it's actually worked very, very well for a lot of employees and for a lot of employers. And so now legislation is starting to catch up with those employers to make sure that they are looking after their employees in the right way, whether it be in the US or here in the UK, Australia, Europe, Poland. Legislation is coming in to make sure that employers are looking after their employees in the right way.
Yeah, it is a fact that legislation usually comes after the practical things which are introduced by business. And I still remember these times when we were forced to work from home. Nobody asked us if we have good conditions, how we can handle this work from our homes. Now it is much better. And you have created a very interesting application, which names is Flex. So tell us a little bit about this application.
So, as you say, Flex is an app that's available in both the App Store and in the Play Store for Android devices. And it's an app that contains a survey based on employers' requirements that employees can download and fill out by having a unique key. And it just takes them through a series of questions, and also it allows for photography of the home workspace and also video of the home workspace to be captured. Once that information has been captured and the audit has been complete, and it takes about 12 minutes to complete the audit, everything that's captured in the audit is watermarked and compressed and then saved in a secure database for the employer to review at some point in the future. And the reason that everything is watermarked and compressed and time-stamped, and also has a GPS stamp on it, so we know exactly where the audit took place. It means that it could be used in a court of law were there to be some kind of claim by an employee that they hadn't been looked after properly, or that there was something not right within their workspace, a cable stretching across the floor that somebody's tripped over. The employer has the evidence, and it's tamper-proof, to show that when they did the audit of that employee's workspace, everything was as required.
So it is somehow protecting employers or rather making them sure that the environment where employees are based is secure.
Exactly. And we're looking at both health and safety, we're looking at well-being, but also regulatory compliance. So, there are a lot of employees now who are working for insurance companies or banks. And so, we also need to make sure that the workspace that the employee is working in, is suitable for somebody that's dealing with financial information or personal data, that could be caught up in some kind of a, GDPR legislation, for instance.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually, if this is compliant with GDPR.
So there's two parts to it, really. So the first part is to make sure that, well, in fact, there's three parts. The first part is to make sure that the employee is working in, a regulatory compliant workspace. They're safe, secure, and their well-being is being looked after, as well as the data. The second part is very much that the employer has the opportunity to say that, if there are actions needed to make that workspace compliant, either it needs a new chair, or it needs a proper, adjustable desk, or what have you, or it needs to have because of your particular role in the company, you need to have a lockable workspace so that other people can't access it. Then the employer can either take actions and supply the new desk or the chair or what have you, or request that the employee actually, makes those adjustments. And then the third piece is to make sure that on both sides it can be shown that all of the due diligence required had been performed and recorded. And again, you haven't had to send somebody to the employee's home. It's all been done remotely in 12 minutes using our app.
You mentioned that within this application, people can answer some questions, they can record videos, take some photos, and so on. From the perspective of an employer who wants to use this application for her employees, is it possible to customize somehow extra questions within this application?
So it's a great question, Victor. So the app itself is fully customizable. So we provide a base level audit, but we work with the employer and their compliance team and or their HR team and or their legal team to make sure that firstly within the app the appropriate consents are captured from the employee, and each company may have its own set of consents that it would like to adhere to. And then secondly, each section of the audit can be changed, the titles of each section can be changed, the questions within it can be changed to meet the requirements of that particular business. And then when the employee downloads the app and logs in using their unique code, it downloads the survey that's appropriate to that particular company and to the particular employee. So that employee may not be working in Poland. He or she may be working in Australia or in the US or in the Middle East, where you can and cannot ask certain questions, or other pieces of legislation need to be adhered to. So we can customize for the region that the employee is operating in. And we can also customize for the department in which that employee works, whether it's sales or finance or customer care, or depending on the type of data that they have access to as well. So to answer your question, fully customizable.
And is it possible for the user of this application, for example, besides answering the questions and adding those photos and videos, to add some extra comments or notes for the employer?
So the app prompts the employee to take a 10-second video here, or please take a photograph of your chair or your shelving. But it also, in certain areas, allows for the employee to write in comments. And again, those comment boxes are fully customizable. and depending on what the employer wants, they can also we can insert those throughout the survey.
So now let's move from the part of employee to the part of employer. So once these pictures are taken, videos are taken, notes are done, all questions answered, and this data is forwarded to employer, how does employer take a look on that? How do they validate it? How do they work on this data?
So we provide access to all of the reports, all of the audits via a secure portal. So the employer can log into that portal. It's a unique login for that particular organization. And they can, if they wanted to, look at each individual audit. But we also provide a dashboard for the whole company. So for all of the 2,000 employees, there's a dashboard that the employer can click through, and it can see how many people are working in a lockable environment, how many people have lockable storage, how many people are working in a shared workspace like a kitchen or what have you. And then based on the dashboard, you can click through to see who each of those individuals are and whether or not any particular action or recommendation needs to be made to allow that employee to work in that particular environment.
Okay. And in which languages this application is available? Is it standard in English or any other languages are also available?
So the base app is in English, but we can, again, because we're not having to continuously reprogram the app, it's a survey that gets downloaded in the background, we can pretty much put it in any language.
Okay, so again, fully customizable.
Exactly. And if the employer wants to, we can also make the front of the app white label. So it doesn't even look like the Flex app. It actually looks like an app that's been brought together and pulled together by the employer themselves.
One question just came to my mind because from the perspective of security, of employee security at home, it seems like this kind of tools for auditing the workspace which somebody has at his or her home should be like something what somebody has to do. But I think now there are no legal regulations which force us to document our working space. This is rather recommended, but not forced. And now the question comes: do you think that from the for example, security perspective, someday we will be forced to take care of our working space at home to make it like due diligent or verified via such applications like yours?
Yes. So again, two parts to that. So within legislative bodies, both in the US and in Europe, the UK, Australia, they are now making it part of the law. In some cases, it was already the law that the organization is responsible under law for the health and safety of its employees wherever they work, whether it be in an office, whether it be halfway up a mobile phone mast, or whether it be working in the home. So there is an underlying responsibility that's placed on all employers to make sure that their employees are working safely and securely. The second thing, however, is if you type into Google now, home workspace or home worker injury claims, then Google lights up with lawyers across the world that are offering no-win, no-fee claims management for employees that have injured themselves at home. And even worse, if a member of the family injures themselves whilst in your particular workspace environment. So the motivation is twofold really for an employee. employer, make sure that your employees are working safely, but make sure also that when there's a claim against you from an employee, or from a trade union, or from a law firm, that you've at least done your due diligence and performed your duty of care to make sure that you've got everything, all the information available. And it's very similar to GDPR in that respect. Everybody, 10 years ago, was told about the significant penalties for there being a data breach or some kind of data privacy problem, and that same kind of attitude now needs to be brought into place for the health and safety and regulatory compliance of employees working from home.
The last question, commercial element of that, because this is a product which you probably sell. What is the model, the commercial model of this application?
So we have a number of commercial models, but the most the cleanest one, or the most obvious one, is we would sell an employer one key for every employee to download the app and perform that audit once a year, and at a sort of a recommended retail price that works out at about $20 US per employee per year. And of course, for volumes, then there are also volume price breaks. But there are some companies who are taking this whole health and safety at home very seriously at the moment, but they actually send somebody to employees' homes to actually do an audit, believe it or not. There's a number of firms in the US that send out people to do those audits, which is hugely expensive and hugely inefficient. Whereas actually using an app to do it that's secure and watermarks and compresses everything makes for a much lower cost, much more efficient, much more effective way of ensuring that your both your business and your employees are safe and secure.
The last but least question, if somebody wanted to get to know more about Flex, about the application, or just to find out how it works, where would you direct such person?
So you can go to two websites. So one is www.cloudbasepartners.com, or you can also go direct to the app website, which is www.flex-home.app. And in both cases, all the information is there, and there's an inquiries link that you can click on, and you'll come straight through to one of our team who will come straight back to you.
So I will make sure to put those two links into the description of today's episode, and I keep my fingers crossed actually for you and for other companies who may have similar products, because taking care of our environment, where we are, why it is secure, how can it be secure, and to be sure that it is secure, I think this is one of the most important factors about working remotely or working from our homes. And for today, thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. Great to talk to you.